matters which might benefit from your attention. Friends cannot be neglected. Hurry.
When the day becomes the night, and the sky becomes the sea, when the clock strikes heavy, and there's no time for tea, and in our darkest hour, before my final rhyme, she will come back home to Wonderland and turn back the hands of time.
Time is a he. He is not someone you want as your enemy. Please, sir, the Hatter is in danger.
Young lady, your time is up. This cannot be good.
Hello, Alice.
I present you with a gift.
So let's start. How familiar were you with the first Point Break film?
Very familiar. It's a movie that I grew up with in Australia, and I grew up surfing on the beach in the northern beaches of Sydney, and yeah, it's kind of handed to you when you get your first surfboard. You kind of, if you're born in the 90s, you kind of get your first surfboard and a copy of Point Break, and and it goes from there, you know. So yeah, it's you get an email kind of saying that there's a potential that you could be Johnny Utah, and you kind of, your eyes go wide and you get really nervous because you really want to do it, and then you finally get the chance to audition and meet the director, and you do it, and suddenly you're Johnny Utah, and you're like, oh my God, this is real. This is amazing. Oh, holy crap, I'm Johnny Utah. And then it gets really real, and you got to go and make this movie and go and experience this. And yeah, for me, this is a dream come true. You know, this is something that I never thought would happen in my life.
And now, how challenging was it for you? Because there's a huge fan base with the first film. For you to knowing the character, how challenging was it to make this character your own, and what were the differences between this film and the one that was in 1980?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I was kind of lucky in terms of it's a reimagining of the original. So we've got Utah and Bodhi, and we've got their heart and soul, their ethos, their backbone, what we all love about the original. You know, their lust for life and their need to go out and live it and get the most from it. But it's a different story, you know. This Utah, it wasn't too hard for me to differentiate between the original, between Keanu's and mine, because he's a different guy. He comes from a different place, and we get a little bit more of an insight into where he comes from and kind of maybe his reasoning for getting into the FBI in this film. So yeah, it was kind of laid out for me in a way, and that really helped, because I didn't want to mimic the original, and neither of us did. None of us involved in the movie wanted to mimic the original. We wanted to take the bits we loved of it and make it 25 years later and give it to another generation to showcase these sports that weren't even invented back in the original. You know, the people in the original Point Break were still paddling into waves. Like, they hadn't even invented tow-in surfing yet, and wingsuiting was not even no one had even thought of it. You know, it was just skydiving and all these things. You know, with extreme sports, they're much more popular now, much more in the kind of social consciousness, and this is a whole new way of viewing them, rather than just, you know, a little GoPro video on YouTube. This is a serious way to view these sports, and I think it really puts you as close to the action as you could possibly get without being there. Yeah.
It's amazing. So, apart from being a great action film, there's also a theme to this film, and there's a philosophy there. Can you talk a little bit about Bodhi's philosophy and Utah's philosophy and the relationship that these two have?
Yeah, I mean, I think with anyone who not only participates in these extreme sports, but who spends time outdoors and gets their leisure from being outside and in and around nature. You have a connection to it that you can't really deny. And you know, Bodhi and his people, they're these people, they're this gang that participate in these sports and that use the Earth's forces in these ways that gives them life and that allows them to live. And I think they feel a responsibility to repay that. You know, you only get what you give in a way, and I think Utah understands that. He comes from a place similar to theirs, and but there's a difference between, you know, the ends justifying the means and the means justifying the ends. And I think for Utah, that's really where the struggle comes. He understands where they're coming from, and he gets it, and he knows something has to be done, but he's sure this isn't the way to do it. There's other ways to do it, and yeah, it's an interesting thing because you know, there's Robin Hood's probably the wrong word, but there's a conscious kind of effort behind Bodhi's kind of wants and desires and actions, but is it really the right thing to do? I mean, Johnny Utah doesn't think it's the right way to do it.
Now, I know that you didn't do all of the stunts, but did you have to prepare yourself physically at all for this role?
Yeah, I mean, I did everything up until these guys taking over and actually performing, you know, these crazy things. So towing behind the jet ski on the surfboard up until he lets go of the rope, and then I was hanging off Angel Falls, you know, 3,000 feet above the earth, and I was standing on the edge of cliffs and stuff like that. So I did everything until the pros took over, but just on a broader basis, yeah. I mean, the physical preparation was more, yeah. It was 6 months of 5.5 days of work a week, 6 days of work a week, and we're going to all these different countries and all these different climates and all these different time zones. It was exhausting. It was really hard to work 14 hours a day and make sure you're eating well and exercising and staying in shape. Just basically, I couldn't get sick, I couldn't get injured. It was stuff like that. And, you know, it was really more practical. Like, you know, I practically, for practical sake, I had to be fit and healthy. Otherwise, I wouldn't have got to the end of the movie.
Let's talk about Erickson as a director. What kind of a director is he?
Erickson's a lovely director. He DOP'd it as well. He was a cinematographer as well. So that kind of meshing of the two really works. I mean, it cuts out a few things and it gives him a kind of clearer view of what he wanted to do. And I mean, he was very open to anything we wanted to do. And I mean, he had a certain direction he wanted this movie to go. And I mean, the framing he put it in and kind of the way he structured it and the way he shot it and was such a good captain of the ship during filming. I mean, just to get this thing filmed is an amazing accomplishment. When you're on top of Mont Blanc and it's minus 15 degrees and the storm's coming in and you've got an hour to shoot this thing and you get it done because Erickson's got the camera and he's hanging off the edge of a cliff. You know, when we were on the edge of the cliff, Erickson was on the edge of the cliff with us, and he's a real outdoorsman and someone who knows the environment and the outdoors better than any. So he was a perfect guy to make this movie.
Now, going back to the fact that this is still quite a physical film, but there's also the philosophy behind there. Did this affect you in any way as how you look at your own world? Did it change anything?
Yeah, I mean, I'm fairly clued in, and I like to be informed. I like to read the newspaper daily and be as informed as possible. So yeah, I have my own ideas on where the world's going and how it is. But yeah, it was interesting to see this take on it. I think the world is just a much smaller place than it has ever been, and I think finally we're realizing that what happens on this side of the world affects the other side of the world, and that we're not just a bunch of countries that are stuck together. We're one people that live on a spaceship that floats around space, and we should treat it like our home, and we should treat it with respect, and we should try and make it the safest, best place for everyone to exist. And I have faith. I'm a glass half full kind of guy, and I think we'll get there one day, because thinking the other way is admitting defeat.